Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week we're going to be going over Neat Stuff, a Fantagraphic book from 1986. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work that helps support the channel and helps support my art career and helps support the world in general. I produce a 12-page, full-size, full-color comic book every month for my Patreons. You can check this out at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin. Like I said, it's a 12-page, full color, full size comic, and you can get this for $3, $3 a month, and you also get a sticker too. You can also check this out at alexanderturbin.com, and you could just message me at alexturbin04401 at Instagram. Like I said, you can go to alexanderturbin.com and also check all of these back issues. They're only $1.25 each, and there's a whole bunch of different stuff that I've been working on in my career, and it's basically all there. So, excuse me. This week is Neat Stuff. I've been saving doing Neat Stuff and Hate, and I was kind of gonna wait for Yummy Fur, but I just had to review some of the Yummy Fur stuff. But Neat Stuff was my first introduction to Peter Bagge's work, and he is probably my favorite cartoonist. I say that because I know that a lot of people don't have a distinction between comic book artist and cartoonist, and they just kind of lump it all into the same category. I kind of don't. I definitely think that cartooning is a different category than like your comic book artist. I know that one story is that when I went to apply for the Joe Kubert School for Comic and Graphic Art, back when I was 18, a million years ago, we had to have a little one-on-one with Joe Kubert, and it was like a little 45-minute thing. So we drove all the way from Maine to New Jersey, just for me to have this little Q&A with Joe. And we had this nice little discussion about the difference between comics and cartoonists and stuff. Because at that time, I really didn't have that great of respect for cartoonists. I mean, I gave him the example that I really wanted to be a graphic novelist in the vein of Mobius or something like that. And I really had no interest in anything like Garfield or anything like that. And Joe looked at me very sternly, not so much in an angry way, but more in a, you're going to learn the difference between cartoonists and graphic novelists, and you're going to find that cartoonists are equally as talented, if not more so, than the graphic novelists. And he didn't say that, but that was just a look in his eyes. But what he did say is, I know Mobius and I know Jim Davis, and I know that Mobius wishes that he was half of the artist that Jim Davis is. And that really kind of stuck with me all through my my career as an artist. And it really, that and just being in school gave me a really good appreciation for cartooning, as well as graphic novel and comic book artists. I still enjoy doing comic book art as a more of a serious medium, simply because doing humor is incredibly hard, and I just don't have what it takes. I've tried before, I'll try again, but it is incredibly hard. And the one cartoonist that has made me laugh more than any other cartoonist anywhere, maybe Far Side, but I'm not really sure that I put those into the same category, because each Far Side is like a one-off cartoon, whereas Neat Stuff and Peter Bagge have whole storylines that are incredibly intricate, and they all have a great punchline, and they all make me laugh incredibly. So needless to say, I love Neat Stuff. I love Peter Bagge, and number 4 was my initiation into the Peter Bagge universe. So let's go over this, and we'll kind of see what we have to see. So the Bradley Boys it's Neat Stuff is broken into several little stories done by Peter Bagge. And I kind of wish that it was different artists with him writing, or different writers and him drawing and stuff like that. But he's so amazing that how could I ever not want what he produces? So the Bradley Boys, which later goes on to Hate, and it's really kind of a shame because I love all of the characters in Neat Stuff, and I don't know if they just went to the wayside, or if he ever went back and did anything with them. I'm gonna have to go and look for more Neat Stuff characters and stuff like that. I think maybe they were in the back of Hate sometimes or something like that. And I love Hate. Hate is one of my all-time favorite comic books, and so I'm not disparaging him from going from Neat Stuff to Hate. And also, I think the idea was that he was going to transition to a regular size comic book, because this magazine size, it probably just is not as much of a seller as regular comic book size. So anyway, I digress. Let's get into the story. So it's really basically Buddy and his friend, and they get bored from listening to music. And this is totally a 70s 80s thing where you would just hang around in your room and watch and listen to records instead of watching TV or whatever. But they go outside, or they notice that his brother is outside and he's doing his thing, playing with his army men and stuff. So then they go outside and they talk to Butch, which Butch, it's amazing how they all grow up and Hate, and Butch later on is this he's still pretty much of a knucklehead, but he's this big brawny dude, which time passes by, I guess. So anyway, they go outside and they're hanging out with Butch, and they're gonna cause some trouble, and they decide to tell him that they have all of the tanks in the world because he needs more tanks to win the Vietnam War. And so they say that they will give him all of the tanks in the world, and all he has to do is pee in his pants. So they go through this whole thing, and he eventually does it, and then they just kind of make fun of him and walk off. And so Butch gets all pissed off and angry and smashes stuff, and then he goes down the street to hang out with some of his friends, and one of his friends is just sitting there and bored because he wants to go play the baseball, but he can't because he has to watch his sister, which I don't know, is she mentally ill or something? But she might just be a little kid and can't really function well. So he has her tied up so she can't go anywhere, but he has to watch her. So they're talking, and Butch says, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't we have some fun with her?" And so they do the same thing with the little girl that Buddy and his friend did to Butch, so it's a cyclical story, and it's a story of learning how to be a douchebag, I guess. So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of these stories because no, they're all very simple. So we'll just keep going through them because I just want to heap on the praise for the artwork and the writing. So then we have Girly Girl. Girly Girl is the one character I really missed when he went and did Hate instead of all of these different characters. But I guess you have to choose. It's kind of like this was college and he was choosing his major, and his major was the Buddy Bradley family, which I would love, love, love. I know that there was a Hate, or there was a Peter Bagge cartoon that supposedly was almost done or was kind of done. And I guess it's on YouTube, but I don't know. I haven't seen it, and I think it was supposed to be on MTV or something like that, but it never came to fruition, which I really wish it would. I really wish it had. Hate is one of my favorite comics, and so is Neat Stuff. So anyway, we've got Girly Girl, and she's just kind of a troublemaker, and it really has this intricate 12 panel page thing that he's gone to with this Girly Girl thing. So the storylines are very intricate, and except for the front page, are very like I said, it's very intricate, and it loses a little bit of its dynamic range because of that. I think I much prefer the first storyline with the different panel outlines, layouts rather. It just gives it a more unique looking pattern. I know a lot of people like this 12 panel grid. Frank Miller does it quite a bit, but he also goes back and does this weird stuff and open panels, borders, and stuff like that. So I guess it's all up to how much story you want to cram into a page and how much dialogue you need to cram into a page, because this is a whole ton of dialogue and a whole ton of storytelling. So anyway, girly girl, she's being mean to all of her friends and wants to play this battlefield ball, but none of the friends want to play, and they kind of ostracize her because she's so mean and angry and stuff. So she goes off. She hangs out at a bar with I don't know, is he a drunk? I don't never knew who this character was. What's his name? I can't remember. Anyway, I can't. Goonie. Let me know. Anyway, so he tells her that she's angry and that she needs to just chill out and be more like the other kids. And she's like, okay, I'll go try it. And she tries to play jacks with some of these other kids, and she tries to be nice and everything, but one of the kids is playing it wrong, so she kind of goes crazy and smashes their faces in. And she's like, so do you guys want to play jacks like I want to play, or do you want to play Battlefield the way the normal rules are? And they all decide to play Battlefield, and they all become friends again, I guess. So then we have a pin-up of Babs Bradley, which is Buddy Bradley's sister. And then we have Studs Kirby gets cable TV. And this is basically an introduction to how cable TV was back in the 80s, late 80s. It was like a whole new world was introduced to everybody. I remember when we first got cable, it was like the hole in the sky opening up and the sun is just shining down on you. And that's basically how Studs feels about his cable, where he's got every channel imaginable and everything. And they go through this whole rigmarole where he's supposed to go bowling and he's supposed to pick up one of his friends to go bowling. So they end up at the bowling alley and they're talking about all of the stuff that Studs used to do and everything, and how he used to be like a shock jock, right-wing radio host, I guess. But I guess he was kind of canceled. This is a precursor to all of the social media and people being canceled for inappropriate comments and stuff like that. But he was kind of like Rush Limbaugh, I guess. But he was canceled by his radio station, and he couldn't get a job. So he just got a regular job, and he just became this placid, know-nothing, brain-dead, TV-watching dude, and they just kind of felt sorry for him and stuff. So, but then his friends decide to try to get him to get back into being the old Studs that he was, which, I don't know if it made him happier. He probably was happier just watching TV and letting life go by. But then he goes into this thing where he's going to do it and go back to being who he was. But then he goes back and the Cosby Show's on and he kind of just becomes brain dead. So Peter Bagge, he's got a lot to say. It's not just funny cartoons. It's social stories, social input. And like he's got a lot to say. It's very much very reminiscent of Curb Your Enthusiasm and with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think that maybe, I don't know if they got inspiration from these kind of things, but it certainly was the same evolutionary process, I think. Peter Bagge, of course, this was back in the 80s, and those other shows were later, and I don't think they copied him, but certainly the inspiration, I think Peter Bagge had this a lot earlier than those guys did, and he does it just as well, if not better, than those two fantastic shows. So the last story is of Junior, who's a character, I guess, that he's just created, and Junior gets a job at an ice cream place, and his mom says that he's not going to be able to stick with it, but he's determined to prove her wrong. So the manager brings him over to it's a Baskin Robbins, and that's used to be an ice cream place. I don't think there's any more anywhere anymore. So anyway, he goes to work there, and his two cronies, his two co-workers, they kind of show him the ropes, and then during the rush, they throw him to the wolves, which I would imagine is after dinner time. So then he doesn't know how to do it. He can't do it. He can't handle it. So then the manager comes back, and because the two other workers are just hanging out, sitting down while he's floundering. So the manager comes back, and Junior says these guys were the ones who were sitting down, and the two other employees are like, no, it was Junior that was sitting down. So the manager is like saying he's going to come down hard on him and he's going to whip him into shape. And then Junior just kind of freaks out and takes off and calls his mother for the rent again. So it's a fantastic issue of Neat Stuff, number 4. I'm going to, at some point, because I didn't realize how cheap they were, which I should have, because Hate is really cheap, which is really disgusting, because all of those 80s comics, Hate and Neat Stuff should be at the top pile of what people want, and it's just a criminality that these are not worth more. So I'm going to go scoop them up before anybody else can. And so some of his art that I want to go into is just so beautifully done. It's meticulous, but it's also flowing. All of his characters are so flowing, and he's got a lot of techniques that he uses over and over again, like his mouth going crazy. He's got like a crazy look in your eye when you're either angry or just being goofy. But it's totally okay. It's not like he's reusing the same shot over and over again. He's just reusing the same technique, oftentimes to show the same kind of thing that's happening. And he uses a lot of iconic different things, like the horns on Buddy Bradley and his friend as they're gonna go cause some trouble, and flipping out face. That's why I really think this is akin to Curb Your Enthusiasm, because if you watch that and Larry David just kind of freaks out, it's like he's got the same face expression, facial expressions that these guys. I could totally see him freaking out in these kind of ways when what's his name is just freaking out because they lied to him. It's just amazing. Like I said, I love this storyline because the different panel layout, it allows Peter Bagge to express the storyline in exactly the way he wants to and give it a lot of variety, because like I said, the 12 panel pages I'm just really not into, but I mean, it was just that one storyline, so I'm cool with it. So it's so, like I said, it's so flowing and dynamic, and you never have to reread anything. You know exactly what's going on. So his narrative art is really on point, and his expressions, his expressiveness is fantastic. His backgrounds are really amazing. They're amazingly placed. They've got great perspective. He's, like I said, he is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, cartoonist of all time. That might even translate into favorite comic book artist as well, because it's not just, like I said, a weekly strip or something where it's just 4 or 5 panels and that's it, but it's a whole storylines that go together. He's got great textures. You know, he doesn't overdo it. That's one of the big differences between your typical comic book artist or graphic novelist and a cartoonist, is that they can show you exactly the kind of emotion and the feeling and stuff with one line, whereas another artist might have to do it with 50 or 60 lines. So it's a lot to go through, but it's beautiful artwork. It catches the eye. One of the things that I really love is his silhouettes. He doesn't overdo it, but he knows when to have a silhouette. It's usually at the peak of an emotional experience, he'll add a silhouette here, like here you go, to what's going on, and it just drives the story along, and it gives it a lot of different variants. And so anyway, here's neat stuff. I know that I don't usually give 10s, but this is one of my favorite comics and one of my favorite comic artists, writers, and this is definitely a 10. And I would say all of the hates are 10 too. So beautiful stuff. I highly recommend it. And it's he's a wonderful creator. And as one of my friends said about Yummy Fur, and he said he's a national treasure. And Peter Bagge is a national treasure. So go out and buy a bunch of neat stuff and a bunch of hate because it's beautiful. And thank you for watching. And if you guys like this kind of content, reviews of old comics and stuff like that, please consider giving me a subscribing rather, and hitting the notification bell. And let me know in the comment what you think of neat stuff and Peter Bagge. And maybe it's not your cup of tea, but let me know anyway. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.